This is the early edition, a curated weekday guide to major news and developments over the past 24 hours. Curated by Lizzie Jennings and read by an automated voice. Published August 6, 2026 on Just Security, an essential resource for those shaping a just and secure world. Here's today's news. Iran war. Iran's foreign ministry spokesman, Esmail Baghai, said yesterday that Iran and Oman are close to finalizing an agreement on an acceptable route for ships to pass through the Strait of Hormuz, adding that the geographic coordinates of the route have been agreed upon. A senior Iranian source and two regional sources told Reuters that the proposed deal would give Tehran control over ships entering the strait. Iranian Deputy Foreign Minister Kazem Garibabadi told Iran's state news agency that the arrangement was designed in such a way that commercial ships will pass through Iranian territorial waters, both on the inbound and outbound legs. Iranian and Omani negotiators told AP News that the finalized deal is awaiting approval from Iran's supreme leader, Ayatollah Ali Khamenei. Yeganeh Torbati and Sanam Mahouzi report for the New York Times. Elena Bekatoros, Sami Magdi, and Darlene Superville report. Parisa Hafezi and Timur Azari report. Iran warned Gulf states that any new U.S. attack on its territory would trigger retaliation against critical energy infrastructure across the region, according to 5 sources. The warning was delivered through a flurry of high-level diplomatic contacts after Trump threatened on July 28 to strike Iran's energy network, the sources said. Parisa Hafezi and Samia Nakul report for Reuters. Iran war. Lebanon. An explosion in southern Lebanon yesterday killed 2 Israeli soldiers and wounded 4, the Israeli military said today. Israel launched strikes in response to what it described as Hezbollah's violation of the ceasefire, and issued a call for residents of the village of Mansouri to flee. Hezbollah did not comment on the explosion. Lebanon's health ministry said an Israeli strike in the town of Tebanim killed 1 person and wounded 12. The latest escalation came as Israeli and Lebanese negotiators met in Rome to discuss the implementation of a June 26 U.S. brokered deal. Abi Sewell and Coral Saeed report for AP News. Iran war. Other developments. President Trump confronted Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth at Camp David last week over why he had not been properly informed about extreme munitions shortages that now threaten to limit military options with Iran, 2 sources told The Washington Post. The shortages, particularly in long-range guided missiles and air defense interceptors, were part of the reason that Trump pulled back from launching additional massive strikes against Iran in recent days, one source said. Tara Kopp, Natalie Allison, and Noah Robertson report. Russia-Ukraine war. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky said yesterday that allies have supplied just a third of the air defense missiles to Ukraine in 2026, compared to 2025. Zelensky also warned that Moscow is seeking to accelerate its ballistic missile production ahead of winter, when it is expected to renew its campaign against Ukraine's energy sector. Reuters reports that residents of Zaporizhia say Russia has intensified attacks in recent weeks using glide bombs and first-person view drones. Even half a year ago it was still scary, of course, and there were strikes. But it wasn't like this. Now it's just a safari, one resident said. Ukrainians have adopted the term safari to describe drones hunting down civilians or vehicles in the street. Ukrainian officials argue the strikes are intended to spread fear, as Russian ground advances in the region have stalled. Dan Pelishuk and Serhiy Chali report. Other global developments. On Tuesday night, German authorities found an explosive-laden drone at Leipzig-Halle Airport in the cargo area where the Ukrainian carrier Antonov Airlines keeps its planes. What appeared to be a second drone collided with a plane in the air after the airport closed its runways, according to the authorities. German Interior Minister Alexander Dobrindt called the incident a hybrid attack scenario, but said it remained unclear where the drone had come from. Christopher F. Schutze reports for the New York Times. Amid increasing unrest in Kashmir, Pakistan has begun a sweeping new crackdown on reporters. 2 Pakistani journalists covering the protests in Kashmir were detained on August 1st and taken to an undisclosed location, according to the Committee to Protect Journalists. Several other journalists said they have been summoned to court for their reporting in the region under a law criminalizing false and fake information. The Pakistani government has also imposed new restrictions requiring all journalists working for foreign media outlets to obtain permission to travel outside Pakistan's 3 major cities. Elian Peltier reports for the New York Times. Bangladesh's former Prime Minister, Sheikh Hasina, said yesterday in an audio address that she would return to Bangladesh in December, despite facing a death sentence over a violent crackdown on protesters in 2024, and called for a ban on her Awami League party to be lifted. Bangladesh said it was outraged by her open engagement with the media in New Delhi, where she and her henchmen launched venomous vitriol against the state of Bangladesh and her people. Sheikh Saeed and Juhas Alam report for AP News. Tech developments. Before they escaped a closed test and launched a cyber attack on Hugging Face, some of OpenAI's most advanced AI agents secretly began sharing tips on how to cheat their way through an internal hacking evaluation, 2 of the company's researchers said yesterday. Dana Nickel and John Sakalariadis report for Politico. U.S. Foreign Affairs. The CIA has established a Cuba task force, setting in motion plans for a more concerted campaign to pressure the Cuban government to make the economic, political, and leadership changes demanded by Trump, sources told the New York Times. The task force includes case officers who recruit and manage spies, intelligence analysts, officers who conduct cyber operations, and officers who specialize in covert influence operations, the sources said. Adam Entis reports. Secretary of State Marco Rubio and UK Foreign Secretary Ed Miliband met yesterday in Washington and discussed the importance of Europe taking a greater role in its security, the State Department said in a statement. A British official said they also reaffirmed the strength of the relationship between the 2 allies, including their shared commitment to NATO. The official added that the meeting was productive and warm. FBI Director Kash Patel told Reuters that he has forged new law enforcement partnerships with China and Russia over the past year in hopes of gaining allies in combating transnational crime, including fentanyl, cyber fraud, and child sexual exploitation. They are both new and dynamic relationships, and we are extremely mindful of their adversarial approach on many matters, Patel said. They are not going to stop, but if we can go and have wins for America, then we must engage. U.S. immigration developments. Federal officials recently started threatening to seek criminal charges against 2 elected county sheriffs who have declined to give immigration agents broad access to inmates subject to deportation, according to documents reviewed by the New York Times. The warnings have been conveyed in a series of letters hand-delivered in early July to Sheriff Dewana Witt of Hennepin County, Maine, and Sheriff Tom Dart of Cook County, Illinois. Ernesto Londono and Hamid Aliaziz report. Southwest Airlines has blocked ICE agents from boarding planes in order to make an arrest at least 6 times in the past few weeks, a source said. Top ICE leaders have told officers that they should attempt arrests at TSA checkpoints when possible, but believe the directive has not been followed consistently at airports, other sources said. The shift in tactics comes as ICE leaders face growing pressure to meet a quota of about 2,000 arrests per day. Andrew Tangle, Michelle Hackman, and Allison Sider report for the Wall Street Journal. The Trump administration has detained more than 50 parents and spouses of active-duty U.S. troops, and at least 6 have been deported as it rolls back immigration protections for military families, an AP News investigation has found. Jack Brooke, Sophia Riddle, and Aaron Kessler report. A federal judge yesterday took the final step in allowing the Trump administration to terminate temporary protected status for 350,000 Haitians. The Supreme Court's ruling means TPS is no longer in effect, the judge wrote in her new order yesterday. However, she said she would allow attorneys to continue seeking discovery and litigating their underlying claims that the Trump administration terminated TPS because of their client's race. David Nakamura, Maria Sacchetti, and Arelis R. Hernandez report for The Washington Post. U.S. Domestic Developments. The Senate Homeland Security Committee is scheduled to vote today on whether to hold Dr. Anthony S. Fauci, the scientist who led the country's COVID response, in contempt of Congress for declining to answer questions during a hearing last week. Another panel investigating Dr. Fauci, the Senate Homeland Security Subcommittee on Investigations, has obtained a copy of his iPhone used during his time as director of the National Institute of Allergy and Infectious Diseases, The Wall Street Journal reports. Jan Hoffman reports for The New York Times. Liz Esley White and Sabrina Siddiqui report. The FBI opened an investigation into whether Trump was acting as a Russian asset after he fired former FBI Director James Comey in 2017, newly declassified memos show. The investigation was closed in 2019 after special counsel Robert Mueller's inquiry found no conspiracy between the Trump campaign and Russia. The documents were released yesterday as part of the Trump administration's effort to publicize what it describes as past government weaponization. Rebecca Falconer reports for Axios. Trump administration actions. Trump has spoken repeatedly with Kevin Warsh since he became the chairman of the Federal Reserve, according to sources. Trump has sought Warsh's counsel on a range of issues, including how the war in Iran and the rapid rise of AI are affecting the economy, some sources said. One source said Trump has not broached the topic of interest rates since Warsh was confirmed by the Senate. Brian Schwartz, Philip Wegman, and Nick Timiraos report for The Wall Street Journal. A new Trump class of warships that Trump says will anchor a golden fleet for the Navy is expected to cost at least 50% more than estimated earlier, according to a government report released yesterday. John Ismay reports for The New York Times. Trump administration litigation. New Mexico's Attorney General Raul Torres yesterday filed a lawsuit against the Justice Department over its refusal to share unredacted documents from its files on Jeffrey Epstein, arguing that the Trump administration is obstructing the state's criminal investigation. Rice Tebald reports for The New York Times. A federal judge held the Department of Homeland Security in contempt, following the agency's delay in complying with an order to release digital copies of communication on the cell phones of more than 800 immigration agents sought in a lawsuit alleging racial profiling and misconduct during Los Angeles immigration raids, according to an order unsealed on Tuesday. In case you missed it, yesterday on Just Security. Strategic Attack on Iran, Air Power's Promises, Limits, and Lessons, by Michael Schmidt. UN Secretary-General candidates may agree more than they differ on the way forward, by Nutara Yusuf, Justin Snyder, and Irene Giannopoulou. Bringing the State Department to the States, How a Domestic Service Requirement Would Strengthen American Foreign Policy, by Matt Petit. Thank you for listening to Just Security's early edition today, August 6, 2026. If you enjoy listening, Just Security's analytic articles are also available in audio form on the justsecurity.org website. To stay up to date on Just Security's analysis of law, policy, and current events, go to justsecurity.org, subscribe to Just Security on Substack, and follow us on LinkedIn, Blue Sky, Facebook, Instagram, and Threads.